move.
Is there a second? Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So now that we've pulled out this particular Part 5 ECHO from the consent agenda, can I go ahead and get a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on any of the other line items? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's carried. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address City Council tonight? Okay. I'll accept the recommendation then to go ahead and close the public comment portion.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We do not have any public. Which is accept Earl Skelly, a firefighter for the city of Sueur.
Mayor, members of the city council, a lot of times these personnel action items are on consent, but things like this I like to put on the regular agenda so we can talk about the fire department. His letter of resignation effective March 31st of 2018. On April 9th, we'll have we'll invite him in and be able to give him thanks for his service. So that's all. Accepting the letter of resignation is all we have for now.
Is there a motion to go ahead and accept the letter of resignation from Earl Skelly?
So move.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. We now move on to line item 8 Bravo, which is consider the approval of the recommended building official hire. I believe our city administrators passed out some additional information prior to the meeting.
Yes, Mayor Hague, members of the city council, we have completed our search for a building official. Went through the process of having initial review of the applications by staff, and then 2 interviews, in-person interviews, and it was a consensus conclusion that we're recommending the hire of Justin Nielsen as the building official for the city of Sueur. Justin has worked in construction most of his post-high school career. He is a resident of Sueur, and he will have his building official limited license. So what that means is that he can go out and perform inspections on residential commercial properties. So, and he'll be working on getting his full building official license through 2018, like that end of 2018, through some various continuing education, things like that. So what we'll have to do in order, if we do have a commercial plan review or commercial inspections, we will have to have a consulting building official to do that type of thing. We've been using an individual that I've known. His name is Jim Kessler. He's been a building official most of his life. The recommendation would be to continue to keep him on as a consultant until that full license is obtained. Likely we would use that as kind of a training time for Justin to learn more about commercial inspections, things like that. We were looking for somebody that had a full license, would be able to step in, but I think just staff-wise, personality-wise, this was the best fit that we had. I've included in the packet that I've handed out the job description for the building official. The position is at a grade 14. What I'm recommending is that we hire Justin at grade 14, step 2. This is based on his previous salary and experience that he has. So pretty low in the grades. He'll be able to work his way up for many years through this process. So there will be a 6-month probation period, and for the purpose of PTO accrual, he's requested, and I've agreed to 5 years of service, so that means it's 208 hours annually for PTO. Let's see. So with that, I'll entertain any questions. Basically, all we need is an approval to hire Justin Nielsen as the building official for the city of Sueur. I believe his hire date, so typically how these things work, if this is approved tonight, he'll alert his current employer that he has accepted another position. There's a 2-week period there, and then he would likely start around April 16th is when his official start date would occur. And that timing is very good because we are rolling out some new permitting software, building permitting, licenses, things like that around the same time. So he'll be able to step in and get rolling with that task immediately. As you are aware, our current building official, they are done at the there, but if there are questions, the action requested is to approve the hire of Justin Nielsen as the building official of Sueur.
When you say some commercial, what do you mean?
So, I'm not an expert at this, but there's certain things that under a limited license you can do commercial inspections. Justin knows what those are. Jim Kessler knows what those are. So if there's a building permit application that comes in, and he is able to do it, he'll take that on. Likely we'll utilize Mr. Kessler as a resource to help guide that process too. So I don't know off the top of my head, but there is a distinction between what he can do and what he can't do with a limited license.
Can you talk more about that licensure process? You mentioned have the full licensure by the end of the year.
Correct.
What happens if that doesn't happen?
Well, if that doesn't happen, we're going to have a conversation. I'm confident that that'll happen. Right now, Justin has 80 points, and you have to get up to 100 in order to get your full building official license. So there are just laid out continuing education things that can get you up to the point requirement in order to take the exam to be a full building official. So there's no doubt that Justin will be aggressive in that sense to be able to get up to there, and then he'll have to pass the test. So if that doesn't occur, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm very confident that he'll be able to move this along and become our full building official by the beginning of next year.
And the salary bump is commensurate with getting that licensure?
Correct. So there in the offer letter, you'll see if once he does acquire his full building official license, that'll mean a step increase. So after 6 months, if he has a successful probationary period, that'll be a step increase. And then if he receives his full building official license, that'll be another step increase. So it's an incentive-based offer letter. If for whatever reason he's not able to get his full building official license, we can address that when that happens, or if that happens.
Okay, though we talked about this within the Personnel Budget Committee, perhaps you can go ahead and bring the other members of City Council up to speed in regards to the amount of money that we had set forth for the 2018 budget for this, and how we're looking in regards to the monies for 2018.
Yes, I can go into a little bit of details about the finances of this. So in 2018, we set aside for benefits roughly $120,000 for this position. We're coming in at the low end of the spectrum, so there's some savings there. Quarter two of this year, so there's a quarter of the year that there's some essential savings there. And then we also have some expenses with the consulting services. So right now we have a contract with Mr. Kessler not to exceed $10,000, and I believe we're at about $1,800 of that so far. We have plenty of cushion to be able to remain on budget or under budget for this position in 2018.
And overlap with the outgoing building official and the incoming building official and the fact that, we might have to rely on some consulting services to go ahead and help with the job search and such. So just want to make sure that everybody on city council is aware of that, so. The due diligence has been done and everything's up to speed on this. Any additional questions regarding the hire of, Justin Nielsen as our building official?
It may be helpful, Mr. Mayor, if our city administrator could briefly and perhaps even generically describe Mr. Nielsen's background, his educational background with St. Cloud, et cetera.
That's perfectly fine. So yeah, Justin has a degree from St. Cloud. He has been working with some large national builders that are building up in the metro area right now. So right now, he's currently managing for Lennar. They're a national builder. I think he's managing 10 to 12 developments right now. So he's got a lot of stuff going on regarding that, going all over, traveling all over the place. So that was one of the reasons why he is a resident of Sueur. He's got a family. He wants to spend more time with family and not be on the road. So that's I believe Stacy Lawrence was in with the interview too. He was awarded Builder of the Year by Lennar. At that time, there's been some acquisitions, it seems, but that's a big deal because they're a large company. Just from the interview process, he's very focused, very driven. I'm frankly excited to possibly have him join our team. I think it's a great fit, personnel, and just him being able to grow here in the community and grow.
Any questions? I'll go ahead. Council to go ahead. Now move on to line item 8, Charlie, which is the establishing a Park and Recreation Advisory Committee. Currently, acronym is PRAC.
Mr. Mayor, Council Member Johnson also had some comments, some of which have been incorporated into this draft. I have various recommendations that I would like to incorporate, and if we could do it that way rather than having amended things. First of all, I would propose that we change the name from Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. PRAC sounds kind of strange, quite frankly. I'll say no more, but I would suggest that RPAC sounds a little friendlier. That's one. Okay? The next thing would be on the top of page 2, section 2. It now reads, at the last meeting of the committee in each calendar year, the chair shall open the floor for nomination for the offices, note it's plural, of vice chair. It should read chair and vice chair. And I believe that was your intent, correct, Mr. City Administrator?
Correct.
Okay. Finally, the other change, and we'll come back to another one later, on the last page, section 4 under quorum, I would suggest inserting the word voting before members, so it would read 3 voting members of the committee shall constitute a quorum. They're called voting members earlier, but this clarifies staff people are not part of the quorum.
Councilmember Krogman, could you repeat that last one for me, please?
Surely, very simply. On the last page, section 4, quorum. It now reads quorum, 3 parents, 3 close parent members of the committee shall constitute a quorum. I'm suggesting putting the word voting before members, 3 voting members of the committee, to make it clear.
And then as we look through this document, I know that Councilmember Johnson submitted some suggestions as well, and I know that he'd like to go ahead and have an opportunity to make sure those updates are put into this document.
I
If-
think under Article 1, Section 4, membership, what we have defines the 5 voting members, but it doesn't, it specifies one city council ex officio, but it doesn't specify the staff liaison mentioned in other places, but why not put them all in one place so the membership of the committee is clear in one place. You can two, but it seems to me if you're defining membership of a committee, put the voting members, put
Is it,
Add something. The word ex officio is very confusing because some ex officio members can vote, some can't. Depends on who you talk to about that. Why don't we just call it a non-voting member? Get rid of the word ex officio. Then they're all consistently non-voting members, secretary, staff liaison, et cetera. And the city council member.
Councilmember Johnson, did you have anything else that you wanted to address with
I
this?
just need to, I kind of followed what Jasper was saying, but I'm not exactly clear. You're adding something to section 4 about the non-voting members, is that correct?
correct. So if you look at Article 2, Section 1, officers, that essentially names everybody that is involved with this group. What I will do is incorporate into Section 4 the non-voting members, strike ex officio, and then have a list of the non-voting members, the city council liaison, the staff liaison, and the secretary. I believe that those are the 3 non-voting members. So it'll be duplicated between Section 4 of Article 1 and Section 1 of Article 2.
Well, actually, section 1 of Article 2, the only non-voting one mentioned, there's a secretary. It doesn't mention the city council or staff.
Very good, yeah, I think we'll make sure that they're both duplicated and they both have the same information in them, if that makes sense. I think that'll be good.
If Councilmember Johnson has completed his, I'm not sure, have you?
Well, you,
Yes.
under the officers with the vice chair, chair part, I thought it would be helpful under meetings, to clarify, that the chair and staff liaison would collaborate on the meeting agenda, so that's clear from the beginning. And also that you clarify that these meetings are either open to the public or they're not.
first page. 5, 6 lines down, it reads, said feedback shall be provided to the city council as deemed appropriate by the staff liaison. I would suggest that it could also be done by the committee chair. It's probably not going to happen often, it probably would work together, but if there's some reason to have the committee chair here should have the ability to do that also. I think we need to be real clear, however, that this committee is not here to make policy. They're here to carry out policy of this council.
That's correct.
But I would suggest adding the words, after the word staff liaison and committee chair. Or, not and, or committee chair.
Which section was that?
3.
Section
Third line from the bottom of section 3,
staff liaison or committee.
as deemed appropriate by the staff liaison or committee chair.
Did you have some more suggestions, Councilmember
I do
Coleman?
not, thank you. I apologize for having so
No,
many, but not.
This is exactly what we want to get done, so that we have a document here that is precise and clear for all that are involved. What about our other members of City Council? Councilmember Wilkie, Councilmember Favlis, Councilmember Roloff, Councilmember Huntington, anything to add?
So if I may, what I would suggest, I'll go through what the proposed changes are. What Councilmember Krogman may do is amend, he has a motion, I believe, on the table right now. It hasn't been seconded. But we can add all these things to it. He can add all of these things as I state them to the motion. And then if that's the direction we would like to go, then that can be seconded and we can move that along. So what I'll do is I'll go along, and if I missed anything, let me know. So Article 1, Section 3, after as deemed appropriate by the staff liaison or committee chair, that will be added. Section 4 of Article 1, we're going to add the non-voting members, the city council liaison, the staff liaison, and the secretary to that section as defined.
As non-voting members.
As non-voting members, we're gonna strike ex officio. Article 2, Section 1, under officers, we're going to essentially duplicate Article 1, Section 4, and make sure that they are consistent with each other. Section 2 of Article 2, we will amend that for the of chair and vice chair will be in there. Article 3, Section 1, under regular meetings, shall be in compliance with the open meeting law and are open to the public. And there will be a clause in there saying that the staff liaison and the chair set the agenda together. And then the last one, now I don't have my last sheet, but I believe Section 4 of Article 3, we're gonna change that to the 3 voting members for quorum.
There was one other, and that was the name of the group.
Oh,
Changing that
yes.
to Recreation Parks Advisory Committee.
Yep, correct.
Councilmember Krogman, would you like to go ahead and repeat your initial motion?
I will so move with all those changes, the document that you have in front of you.
Okay, we have a motion to go ahead and accept all the various changes that we discussed tonight, and also to go ahead and change the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee name to Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. Is there a second to that?
I will second.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried.
If I may, so what staff will do now is, we'll start marketing these positions. We'll likely keep them open for 30 days. So likely maybe the last meeting in April or the first meeting in May, we'll come to city council with some applications, to be appointed for the first, RPAC. So you'll see this in the next, 4 to 5 weeks. You'll see this again.
Thank you. That was a lot of good work on that. Let's move down to 8 Delta, which is the Voluntary Employee Separation Program.
Mayor Hague, members of the city council, before you is an item that's been in the works since the fall of 2017. Essentially, during the budget process, we have incorporated into the budget a voluntary employee severance package. And what we're here tonight is to evaluate that package and potentially approve those separation agreements. 4 individuals have applied for the package. One of them is Dan Greep. He's an equipment operator. He has indicated that his last day of employment would be May 31st. Greg Shaleen, he's a police sergeant. He's indicated that his last day of employment, if approved, would be March 31st, so Saturday. Ron Sinnell, street superintendent, has indicated that if approved, his last day of employment would be August 9th, 2018. And Randy Snow, special programs director, has indicated if approved, his final day would be May 31st, 2018. Now, personnel and budget, we've developed a formula for figuring out what the severance is on top of the other PTO balances and extended illness balances. So what the severance package formula is you take what the 2018 salary is. Now, some of these are hourly employees, some are salaried employees. What we do is we figure, what the annual salary is based on your hourly rate without any overtime incorporated into it. You figure out what the weekly pay is by dividing that by 52, and then you take 75% of what your weekly pay is and multiply that times your years of service. So, and that gives you a number that was incorporated into the agreement. A draft agreement is included in the packet, and that's how the severance was calculated. Now, the paid time off, that's in our personnel policy, and whatever the PTO balance is, when you leave the city of Sueur, you receive your hourly rate times your PTO hour balance. We have this remnant of our old sick time. We now call it the extended illness bank. And what that is we have the employees, some employees have a bank of hours. When they leave, they get essentially 25% of what that balance is. So those are the severance agreements, or the employee severance packages. Now we'll talk a little bit the $140,000 allocated project. Just so everybody, we're required to carry the balance for everybody's PTO that is employed by. That's part of that Gatsby 16 requirement that was a couple years ago. What triggered the city of Sueur to transition from number of hours that we had on the books for sick, our requirements to satisfy that law, we would have to have a lot more money on cash. We always carry that, but what I've done is incorporated to carry them out benefits. Package totals, the severance total for the 4 employees when using the formula is just over $114,000. The PTO total for the 4 employees is just under $50,000. And the extended illness bank total is just under $22,000. So the total package amount is $185,460, and number is above the $140,000 budget allocation. This is where the salary savings which is the incorporation of these positions leaving. So at a future date, we'll address that issue as well. You know, right now, I think the direction the Personnel and Budget Committee is going is that we don't want to see an increase in salaries, but we want to just reorganize and be more efficient as a city. So that'll come, you know, likely end of April, beginning of May for full council consideration regarding the reorganization. So the action requested by staff is to recommend the city council authorize these voluntary employee severance packages and direct staff to implement them according to the terms listed. So essentially what I'm requesting is that you authorize me to execute these agreements and then go through the process of severing employment with these 4 individuals. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Just want to make sure that everybody on city council is aware of the fact that there were several meetings held by the Personnel and Budget Committee discussing this amongst other things regarding the reorganization. So an awful lot of hours went into the research and to put this plan together. So just so you guys know, there was a lot of stuff that gone into this. So of you that haven't had the opportunity to go ahead and spend as much time with this as we have. Seeing none, go ahead and accept a motion then for our city administrator severance agreements submitted for consideration for the 4 individuals.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. And now we move into line item 9, and this is for our utility task vehicle, known as a UTV draft ordinance. We're very pleased to see that our police chief is here as well, so thank you for coming tonight, because I'm sure there might be some questions from some of our council members.
Mayor Hague, members of the city council, you'll see a draft ordinance, our police chief Bruce Kelly and city attorney Todd Coriel, who got stuck up in the city today, doing some mediation, I believe. They drafted this, they went back and forth, and essentially, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, we used Belle Plains ordinance as kind of a backbone, and then we modified it based on what our police chief, city attorney thought was applicable in this. What we're looking for today is just general review of the ordinance and direction, how we want to move forward with it. If this is something that we want to have a first reading, second reading for, and possibly adopt into city code, that's direction. Or if there's some changes that you want made to the draft ordinance. I'll maybe ask Bruce to come up and give a little bit of background on it. We have.
Chief Kelly.
Thank you. Well, as Jasper indicated, we did pull this from Belle Plaine. There are some things that were a little to tweak a location, our city, through our city. So we find side ride in vehicle, not ride on vehicle. So that, in a nutshell, is what we got here. I'll stand for any questions.
I'd like to make sure that I could have you give us a better explanation so the Sueur's aware we are talking exactly. These are ride-in vehicles and not ATV vehicles. That is not what we're addressing tonight.
Correct.
I have a question, Chief.
Yes,
May.
sir.
I don't know if you have a copy there. Do you have a copy with you?
Oh, the ordinance?
Yes. The
Yes, sir.
proposed ordinance. It'd be section 7702. It's on the second page, paragraph number 5. One of the things that was brought up by the two individuals that came to speak to us about the possibility of such an ordinance was that they wanted to go on Highway 1 to the, on state or federal highways, except to cross that.
Red, but I can allow for streets to be open to this traffic, and my full intention is to have any street that's within the city of Sueur
In other words,
to be
county or
allowed.
state road. Right now it'd be state, we have one,
Right.
going to become a county. So
It's Highway 112, which
Right.
is the issue, which is what was the issue out of the original document, because that would have made it been virtually impossible to access downtown. And that's not my intention. My intention is to allow for those designated
So
roadways.
this phrasing would have to be changed, is what we're saying.
Well, I think it's been tweaked to allow for the discretion. Because I know this went through a few times, and it's much different than the original document where it was talking, I think that verbiage of allowing to cross was in there, and I don't know why it still kind of talks about that, but the intention of the ordinance is to allow for streets.
Well, we may have to change that wording now.
Right.
One thing I'll point out too is, that concurring resolution that was passed in the consent agenda, Trunk Highway 112, once it's turned back to the county, will be County State Aid Highway 22. So we won't have that state aid highway or that state highway going through, but we still have 93 to deal with. Are there any other ones, Bruce, that?
Well, 93 is limited, 112 is the
Yeah.
major one. As Todd and I went back and forth on this, we talked about these vehicles and their ability to power. And if you get on our southern business district, to make sure that they're able to maintain 50 miles an hour and things like that. And so that was the mindset all along, is that if it's in the city of Sueur, we would allow for it to be run on it.
If we, maybe we can word it a little differently or something of that nature to make it a little more clear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you clarify that minimum on 112 south, would have to have a minimum speed of 50 miles an hour?
Well, that's the speed limit once you get out past the cemetery there.
That's the speed limit, that's the
Yes,
maximum.
yeah. We just want to make sure that if a vehicle's driving there, that it has the ability to maintain the speed. That's why, other communities have ATVs and golf carts and a whole lot of different vehicles that they're virtually slow-moving vehicles. That's not the intention of this ordinance. These are vehicles that can maintain road speed and do what needs to be done.
I can understand what you're asking, but I'm not sure this number 5 states that right. It says that any vehicle that cannot achieve the minimum posted speed. We don't post minimum speeds.
No, it's a maximum.
Okay, so that minimum should be maximum
Right. Posted speed limit is the limit.
posted, okay.
Right.
They can maintain a minimum speed of the speed limit is what it should be. The minimum speed of the vehicle should be able to go whatever the posted speed limit is.
So they, couldn't it just read achieve the posted speed limit?
Good.
So this doesn't stipulate whether or not class 2, class 1, or class 2 for the vehicle, as long as it meets a weight 500 but less than 2,600 and 1,200 cubic centimeters.
Right.
Or displacement, that's it.
It's still a class UTV, which is a class, I don't know what that is, 3 or whatever. But it's specific to UTV. So regardless of weight or horsepower, it doesn't open the door for
It's like
other things.
It's like a 60-inch wheelbase on these, is that correct?
Yeah, well, when
Greater than
the original document coming out of Belle Plaine, they were pretty aggressive on some of the sizes and weights, and when I looked into it, I was kind of amazed just how many different variations there are of side-by-side. There's four person, there's 2 person, and they can get pretty good they could be as big as probably my Jeep virtually, to, they can get pretty small too.
Right, that was my concern. 'cause
You
I
know,
was
we don't want a
surprised.
kid's version of that out on the road, so that's why that 500 is, puts a little more weight to it, so it's not too small.
Yeah, that was a concern on my end, because I know a particular individual that has one of these machines, but it's under the 60-inch base, but it's the same machine. It's just like a faster version of that, but it's a little bit narrower.
Right.
Okay, no,
Now,
good, they'll be happy.
a question that I have for you in regards to how the police department would be regulating this. Obviously, they're gonna have to come in, fill out an application, they're gonna have to be able to prove driver's license and insurance, and is the vehicle inspected by the police department then to make sure that it is road ready and it can go ahead and achieve all the minimums that are required by a potential ordinance?
Well, we haven't really built in an inspection. If they're on the roadway, we're hoping that they're roadworthy, just as much as any vehicle that you get tabs on at your deputy register's office can assure that. I don't think we'll get a ton of these requests. And they're virtually, relatively new machines. I mean, they haven't been, outside of Gator, it's been around for a long time, but they just haven't been around they haven't been as popular as they are now. So they're pretty new machines. Basically, somebody will come in, fill out the registration, the permit form, and then we'll give them a license to affix to the back of the machine, and they'll have to get that every year. Just like a car tab. And we have already been working on designing that.
Any additional questions for our police chief? To review and provide feedback, draft ordinance regarding the